dusty laptop there, bro. What's going on? We're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the live stream about the Vario launch. This will be a fun one. We'll kind of spend just a few minutes while people are hopping on to this live, and then we're going to dive into what is the Vario, the design of the Vario, some of the questions you guys have had, and we'll also be doing a giveaway for some Sawtooth pants towards the end of this. So we appreciate you guys joining us, but I guess while we're hanging out and waiting, what do you got going on, Brigham? What's new?
Well, be heading out on a little trip after this. We all are, so that'll be good. It's going to be nice and cold overnight, which is good because we have some things we need to.
Have you looked at the overnight low? Yeah, I haven't looked at where I'm
like 22.
22ish, yeah.
But like 2 days from now, it'll be 4
degrees.
So
we're experiencing a cold snap here in Utah.
Coming here Saturday night.
It happened to be, one of those weekends where I've decided to take the family out on a camping trip. So it'll be, hopefully it goes well for the rest of the family. But yeah, most of the office we're taking off to do some R&D tonight, film a little bit of content, but also just test out some gear. Design never stops here at Outdoor Vitals, it seems, and even when we go a few weeks, it seems like without getting some good testing in, we start to feel behind the curve with just the amount of things that are constantly under development. So anyways, we got people joining on live. I'm going to hop on my phone just so that I can help monitor comments. So if you see me looking at my phone, that's what's going on. And but yeah, if you can hear us, go ahead and let us know in the comments, and we'll get started here. So looks like we got about a good chunk of people watching. So again, if you've got questions about the Vario, pop those into the comments. We'll be doing a giveaway towards the end based on people that have been commenting on the video. We'll kind of randomly select one of you guys, and we'll send you a pair of Sawtooth pants of your size and color preference. So that'll be exciting. But let's just jump in. Let's jump into a little bit of the backstory of the Vario. So from the design side, Brigham, why did we develop the Vario, and what were we hoping to accomplish?
I think we kind of started getting some prompts from multiple directions. Like I think the initial, I guess, push really was like around the time of, the Ventus release. Just got a lot of positive feedback with the Ventus, but also a lot of, what if you added this, or it would be nice if it had this feature, or, just like full zipper pockets, stuff like that. We got, so we started taking note of those things, and that really kind of started I guess that was like the initial spark of the Vario. Also, we didn't really think that we wanted to just make it just the same as the Ventus, with just a Ventus with a zipper and pockets. So we wanted to kind of make it its own piece that fits in our system, and that we felt would be also fill some gaps for maybe some potential other gaps in like our customers' clothing system. And so and then also recognizing that there's people that just prefer like a synthetic jacket altogether, for their main jacket. So I think
we were all just so impressed with the Ventus that it just got us thinking about more, right? Yeah. So the insulation that is in the Ventus is the Torre 3DFX insulation. It's a stretching insulation. You can basically, each yarn is a continuous fiber, but it's also in a coil, much like a trampoline spring or something like that, which allows it to stretch. It allows it to retain heat slightly different. It allows it to expel heat slightly differently, depending on movement, etc. And so as we did all of the testing for the Ventus, we brought that piece to market. It just really surprised us how warm the piece actually ended up being. Yeah. And so as we started to think about some of these other things, it was like, man, what could we do with a slightly different weight of that insulation in a piece? And Again, I would say it's just been super surprising what it's capable of for its weight category. It just punches above its weight category in terms of performance, and so really, really impressive there. So we basically took feedback from you guys, took our own internal thoughts on it, and started to push this piece together so that we could bring in a piece that's warmer than the Ventus, maybe not as focused on breathability or active nature, but more moderate to low, mainly static insulation piece, but still using the same technology that's in it. And I feel like it turned out really, really well. In fact, we've been testing this piece for, I would say, over a year now, or right about the year mark. And so we've taken it on tons of trips through all seasons. But, it's one of the trips that just comes to mind when I think about taking it out was you went to Highline Trail. So we're covering tons of miles. High risk of getting wet on the trail, having to hike in moisture, and just having to dry gear out, etc. And so I took the Vario as my main and only insulation piece on that particular hike, and thankfully didn't end up getting it wet or needing to get it wet or have to hike in the piece due to moisture or extreme temperatures, but was just really, really. It turned out to just be a phenomenal piece for something like that. Even in the high, even summertime, high altitude, just the ability to stay really warm, setting up camp, taking down camp, doing moderate levels of activity in it, but just being able to rely on it for some of those extremes really was just one of those icing on the cakes where I was really excited to get this into people's hands.
Yeah, I think maybe another way of kind of looking at the Vario is it has a lot of like the DNA of the Ventus, right?
Right.
But it's
a big brother.
But it's designed to be a 3-season jacket versus more of a really lightweight kind of mid-layer warmth level. But through the testing process of the Ventus, that we were able to kind of prove out the insulation technology, the fabrics that we use, and so like. I'll give you an example that is with the Ventus, but in terms of what you were talking about with like the moisture and water and wet, high alpine environments. Like when we did the Tusher Skyline Trail, it basically rained on us the whole time. And we were like way minimal on packing lists on that trip because of the volumes of these packs we were using. And my R&D pack was so small that the roll top actually did not close, so I could buckle it, but when it buckled, it left a hole, like the two pieces of fabric would spread open, and I just stuffed my Ventus in the top, and it rained on us the whole time. So like the Ventus is exposed to like hours of rain just stuffed in that pack, and like I was pulling it out and putting it on and getting the immediate heat boost from that, which is like that's kind of a testament to the fabric technology and the insulation technology package. And so the Vario has all that same DNA, just more designed to be warmer and as that like the 3-season jacket. So
yeah. For those of you guys that are just jumping on, we're giving just a little bit of backstory on the Vario. We asked you guys to pop comments in here. We will be answering questions along the way, and for those of you that are participating in those questions, we'll also be doing a giveaway towards the end of our little live stream here. So thanks for joining us, and we'll start answering some of these questions here shortly. But and I already see some really good questions in there, so excited to get after some of these. But just on that note, I think that it's important to just specify that this isn't just, a lightweight insulated piece. The technology that goes into the fabrics is extreme as far as just why we selected them, the durability of them, the weight category of them, and the sourcing of them as far as quality is just exceptional. These are coming from our partners Toray. Toray is a Japanese company who just really specializes in performance and quality essentially. And the insulation itself, the insulation is extremely unique. When comparing it to other classes of insulations, it's just not the same. And so, like I mentioned already, just some of the unique aspects of it, whether it's the continuous fiber nature of it, the ability for it to stretch and move, the ability for it to basically expel heat when you're moving versus retain heat when you're stagnant. It's just an extremely performance focused insulation. I have a lot of experience with it. Brigham has a lot of experience with it, and it always surprises me that for its weight category, for what it is, it's just so impressive. And that really boils down to those individual components on a molecular level, essentially. Even the fact of us being able to produce this as a partially recycled jacket, we know exactly what recycled products going into it on a molecular level, which allows us to have incredible consistency and keep the focus 100% on performance in this piece. It is extremely impressive. I mean, you can take this piece, wash it in your washing machine, pull it out, and the thing feels almost dry with a good spin cycle. It's just so fast drying, and it's just really impressive. So you will see it in a lot of the video footage that will be coming out. I believe I took it on our Appalachian Trail video that will be coming out shortly. It came, on the Uinta Highline Trail, which will be coming out later this year as far as the film, documentary style film. But lots and lots of testing, lots of satisfied trips with this jacket. And it's really become the workhorse, at least for me, out of our jacket line, where I just find myself grabbing it more often than almost anything else due to a little bit of the carefree nature of it, a little bit, of it being able to come on and off the body a little bit easier with the full zip versus, say, the Ventus. But it's just that middle ground jacket that has so many benefits, and it's just so easy to use, right? So it's been a phenomenal piece, and thanks to you guys, it's been a phenomenal launch week this week. It's been one of the best products we've ever launched in company history. So you guys are obviously showing up and excited about this piece too. So let's dive into some of these questions. Like I said, keep the questions coming in. We'll try to hit as many of them as we can. We we will cut this off towards the hour mark if we get that long. And judging by how many comments are coming in, we may have a few. So let's just see how does the warmth factor compare to the Lofttech jacket? And that's from Brad.
I would say it's as warm, maybe warmer. I haven't worn a Lofttech jacket for a while.
It's old R&D news. So
I am constantly using things that are either brand new or not even released yet. So that's my timeline is in the future. So
I would personally say they are extremely similar in warmth category. Very similar. I don't even know which one I'd give the edge to. They're just gonna be super close.
The edge will. I think I would agree with what you're saying. They're probably the same warmth wise, insulation value wise. The edge will go to the Vario anytime there's wind involved.
Yes,
because it's a sheeted synthetic insulation. There's no stitching all over it. So it's going to have a huge advantage in terms of wind resistance.
Just like with our Nova UL line or this piece, the lack of stitching in the jacket. Stitching is where so much of the wind really comes into play. Next time you're out, especially if you can, you have the ability to, say, put the jacket on next to skin or something like that. You can feel the wind cutting through the stitch holes, which is really interesting, as well as moisture. So, I think that's a good way to sum it up. Matt is asking, can you compare or use Patagonia's sizing for your stuff? Should I order the same size I wear in Patagonia? My answer to that would be use our sizing chart. We've been putting more and more focus into the sizing chart to help you find the right size. But typically, we have a more athletic cut. So there could be reason for sure to size up in ours, whereas a company like Patagonia is going to be selling to bigger box retailers. From my experience with them, they are very large, boxy cuts.
That's what I was going to say. Is we were doing some insulation research a couple years ago, and sometimes the quickest way to get hands on insulation is to find, an insulation that's used somewhere else. And so that's what we did. We found a jacket that uses this insulation we were trying to research, and Tayson bought his normal size, and it was gigantic,
huge.
I would say.
I could grab just mountains of extra, and I did not like the fit personally.
You probably could have gained 40 pounds and still fit the jacket.
While we're on sizing, Steven is asking, what is sizing difference between regular and tall of the Vario?
So Steven is asking size difference in regular and tall. I'll let you answer that, but
Yeah, so the torso in the front and the back is 2 inches longer, and the sleeves are 2 inches longer in the talls.
so me personally, I'm 6'2", a little bit over that, and I can wear either one actually. So all right, now I'm wearing a tall, but the regulars fit me just fine. I just kind of bounce back and forth. If you get the tall, it's obviously going to be a little bit more heavy because there's a little bit more material on there. So that's one thing to note. But yeah, the tall I've kind of found nice, especially for like urban wear. Whereas when I hit the trail where I'm in the middle, I typically go with the not tall version just to save a couple ounces because it's still very adequate for me. So hopefully that helps you just in some of the sizing.
I think you're like at the threshold of, a 6'2" guy could probably go either one. I would just most likely, if you're 6'3" and above, like just get the tall.
Yeah, and keep in mind too that like the sizing plays into that, right? If I wore an XL, it would hang lower on my body, etc. So they do scale. Everything is going to scale, accordingly. The short isn't the same length as a triple XL. So lots of people saying that they've ordered theirs. They're on their way. I'll have to see if anyone's actually got theirs in the comments. That'd be interesting because I know these were leaving the office on Monday. So people saying they'll be here tomorrow. Let's see here. Someone saying that they ordered one for international travel along with their Coda. Backcountry Exposure's on here, saying that he loves the ability to layer properly with the Vario on top of the Ventus. Yeah. It is a really interesting combo that works very, very well. So I agree with that. In fact, I think Backcountry Exposure, you guys, if you don't know him, that's Devin Ashby. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. He will have a video coming out within the next week that really compares the Ventus and the Vario jackets together, and so that'll be interesting. I have the Nova UL, now I have the Vario. When do I choose either one in what conditions? So this is probably the best question, the one that we expected the most, which is if we're comparing the Nova UL to the Vario, how do I know which one to wear? So we have a podcast where we talk a little bit about this, but let's try to summarize that into the easiest, most condensed possible way. So I'm going to let you take first stab at it, and I'll back clean up.
Okay. The Nova UL for a down piece is very, very water resistant. However, it's not foolproof in the way that the Vario is. I would, if there is rain in the forecast, or even maybe. Okay, so precipitation and humidity. If you know it's going to be damp, there's going to be precipitation, and a lot of it. The Vario is like the no-brainer. And there's some other conditions where, kind of as you look at trip planning, the type of trip that you're going to do, if you think that there's the chance that you may hike in the Vario, you might be a little bit active. Again, it's not, it's a static insulation piece, but it is going to breathe better than the Nova UL, and it's gonna handle that a little bit better, especially if you start to, you kind of just get carried away. Sometimes that happens. You just kind of throw on a layer, and then you just get in the flow on the trail, and you don't want to stop. That's kind of another condition, I think, where the Vario would be the better choice. Maybe if you're that type of person that you find yourself doing that a lot, that's probably the better choice to use. So precipitation, moisture, and potential unplanned activity in the jacket, I would go with the Vario. The Nova UL is probably a little bit warmer. It's also a little bit heavier, so it's about probably 2 to 2.5 ounces heavier than the Vario. So that's another consideration.
If I was to answer that, my primary concern, Clayton, would just be activity level that I'm looking at. So in my personal opinion and experience, the Nova UL is going to be slightly warmer. But you are not going to want to move as much in the Nova UL. So what I mean by that is if you're just mainly using it at camp, around camp, or sitting at a football game, who knows what, then the Nova UL is going to be the more preferred piece in my opinion. But if you're going to be even moderately active and moving, the Ventus's fabrics will breathe better and expel moisture better. And just offer a broader range of comfort zone. Yeah. So any level of activity is something to consider. Even with moisture, they're both very, very good in the moisture. There might be a slight edge to the Ventus. But to me, it's just all based on the activity level, because the Nova is going to be, in my opinion, just slightly warmer. But any level of activity is going to be less, able to expel any heat from the inside. So let's just say I was getting up to like push snow in the middle of the winter. I'm going to grab the Vario, because even though it's freezing outside and I'm pushing snow off of my driveway, I will start to develop heat inside the jacket, and I won't want, say, the Nova UL versus the Vario. The Vario will be the preferred piece. So really, activity level that you expect on the trail is the number one thing to consider there. So okay, let's keep going, because you guys are pouring comments in here, so I'm going to keep trying to hit these. Actually, I'm going to hit another one from you, Clayton Wallets, just because it was a very simple one to answer. He asks, is the Ventus obsolete now?
No. No, it's not. They're two separate pieces that have a very distinct use case differences. The Ventus is a mid-layer. The Ventus is not intended to be a static insulating piece. Sure, if it's summertime and 65 degrees outside and you're sitting still in the Ventus, of course you'll be warm. That could be said for a number of pieces. But in the actual intended and designed use case, they're two separate pieces. They do not exclude each other. They actually work in cold weather. They work very well together. So,
yeah. Timmy is asking, in one of your videos that got me here, you completely wetted out your gear. Do you expect the Vario to perform on par with the past gear? The answer is yes. So I think you're actually comparing when we wetted out the LoftTech jacket and then put it on and used it. Yes, it will perform actually better than that will in that use case scenario. So if I was to dunk this in a river per se, it got that wet, and I put this on and started to use it, it would actually outperform the LoftTech in that type of a scenario. So good question, Timmy. Got another question here. Would the weight be a little heavy for general daily use in the Pacific Northwest? I would say no. While this does have more insulation than the Ventus, it's not like a middle of winter level of insulation in this piece. It's phenomenal for daily use, and that's kind of when I say, like, at my own house, when I'm just doing all sorts of never know what's going to happen type of thing in the day, I do end up grabbing this piece more than any other jacket that we currently sell for those reasons. A lot of people saying that theirs are coming in tomorrow. Gonna be testing theirs out. So Mike is asking, how would it do in higher humidity areas like Florida or on the Florida Trail?
Excellent.
Great. Yeah, excellent, great. It would probably be slightly preferred over a down insulation in those scenarios. Any plans for brighter colors in the Vario and the Turn? None right now, but if you are a member of the Live Ultralight membership, we do plan on starting to do more color-specific surveys in the future. So if you want a voice on colors, become a member and watch out for surveys over the next handful of months as we have other pieces coming and potentially or just launch them in new colors. So more people saying they're on their porch, out for delivery, arriving today. Kyle's asking if there will be youth sizing. The answer to that is no. We are not yet entering into any kind of youth sizing yet. It is something that I'm personally interested in on a personal level, but from a business perspective, it has not made sense yet for us to open that up. I will say, though, that over the last year, we have introduced women's sizing, and the women have been showing up and purchasing. It's been awesome to see. So, we have been able to expand our sizing over the last year, and hopefully over the next couple of years, we'll have the ability to even look at smaller sizing. So Brandon Smith, this may have been asked, but for layering, should I use the Ventus with something like the Nova or the Vario and the So will the Vario and the Ventus work better, or would the Ventus and a Nova work better for layering?
They'll both work. Again, the Vario is 2 to 3 ounces less weight than the Nova. Maybe the Nova UL is probably slightly warmer, but it doesn't breathe as well, and it's a little bit heavier. So you can layer either of the jackets over a Ventus. They're both designed to do that. They're both tested in that configuration. So yeah.
Someone's asking if you layered the Vario with the Ventus, what temperature range would you expect? Those are tough. Those are so tough.
That's really tough. It's what's your activity level? What's your atmospheric conditions? Are you in a high humidity area, dry area? Do you sweat a lot? What base layer are you wearing? But I mean, that's a very warm combination. A Ventus with a Vario, that's a very warm combination.
I would say that I would probably expect that piece to be as warm as a single Nova Pro from us, maybe the combo, something like that.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
So yeah, I would say that's too difficult of a question to answer. But much like the other question, it's just layering these pieces just gets exponential, in warmth and so on and so forth. So I don't know if that we can just fully answer that. Unfortunately, there's not really a jacket rating system for temperature ranges, but I kind of wish there was sometimes to help people understand
to frame that.
But
I mean, I'm trying to think of scenarios that I or we have been in. Like when we did our hike last February, March, when it was the overnight low was -12, I think, Fahrenheit. All I had was a Ventus and a Nova Pro. Granted, a Nova Pro is way warmer than the Vario, but that's -12 Fahrenheit. So had it been 5 degrees, I actually think a Ventus and a Vario probably would have been adequate. That 15-degree difference.
I was actually looking at this the other day, and just so for the sake of this, I honestly would not recommend anyone do high levels of activity with anything warmer than the Ventus on.
Yes.
The Vario honestly would, even in those conditions that me and Brigham were in last winter, where you're getting into single digit and sub 0 temperatures Fahrenheit, we would have been too hot and too sweaty in a Vario hiking. The Ventus is really the last piece that we recommend doing any level of activity in. After that, they become into moderately activity or just pure stagnant. So. Yeah. Isaac is asking, do you feel like the Vario would perform well as a ski/snowboard jacket? It would be good for both riding and the chairlift. Would you suggest using it under a shell?
I'll speak to my opinion, and then actually Derek is our office big time snowboarder, and so is his wife, and so I'll kind of let him chip in a minute. But I've done a lot of snowboarding growing up. I was early into my 20s, I was a season pass guy, always snowboarding. And I think this would be really good because it's going to be warm enough for for the chairlift. That's like the coldest part of riding on the mountain is the chairlift, because once you're on the mountain on your way down, you're actually really pushing yourself, and I'm usually sweating. So it's really good on the wind resistance, and it has a really good hood. The hood's not going to fit over a helmet. So you'd need to either hood down or helmet over the hood, but I think could be actually a good piece. And I think it'd be totally fine to wear under a shell, not like an insulated shell, but just under your waterproof riding shell. I think would be good. Derek, what do you think?
Yeah, if you guys can't hear me very well, just go ahead and drop it in the comments. I'm in the back here, kind of monitoring things, and I'll see your comments if you can't hear me. But as far as for skiing or snowboarding with the Vario, I would definitely do it. But I will say it does depend on the conditions and what type of riding you do. For me, I'm often running off through the trees, kind of off the edges of some of the groomed runs. on a lot of the resorts. And I wouldn't really feel comfortable with the Vario in those conditions. It is an ultralight performance piece of apparel. And if I accidentally brush against a tree branch running pretty fast down the mountain, I'd be kind of worried about this 20 denier fabric. It
That's
is
a good
20
point.
denier. It's not meant for,
Most snowboarding gear is like 100 denier.
It's pretty over.
taffeta,
It's pretty robust, and for good reason. That's a good point.
Yeah, I think that is a good point. I would kind of second all that. Just saying, I would use it with the shell, like putting a shell on top of this piece. And we'll have some content coming out on this, but it's something that's been top of mind for me. Is if you were to put, say, the Tusher rain jacket over the top of this, it significantly can increase warmth, especially in like a snowboard condition where you're usually high in the mountain. When you're high in the mountain, that usually means a lot of wind is happening up there. So you can get a massive range of temperature ranges by adding a shell, taking off a shell. You start to sweat, you take off that shell, you add it, etc. So, but I would say the biggest concern would be if you're the type of person that is going to be going through brushy scenarios, weaving through trees, things like that. You would probably want something over the top of this to help abrasion resistance if you were to snag into a tree at 20 miles an hour, right? Yeah. So, but the nice part about this is the venting and temperature regulation will be extremely well for you in that scenario. So, continuing on, because we are getting lots of comments here. Thanks for the kind words, Backcountry Exposure, B Ninja. I just wanted to say thank you. Thanks to you and your team. You guys show how much you care about your products, which I really appreciate. Appreciate that as well, that comment. I'm hoping that this will replace my hoodie. I usually wear 2 hoodies at once. I need to be able to move, and I find that most heavy jackets are too restrictive. Yeah, we definitely build these to be able to move. You have stretch in the fabric, stretch in the insulation. It will feel a lot less cumbersome than adding 2 hoodies on top of each other for sure. And the warmth will be as good, probably superior, honestly.
Yeah, that's a good point. Keep an eye out for the Backcountry Exposure video. He covers some really helpful things kind of in that regard.
Can I jump in here? There's actually multiple people asking questions about how it does in the rain, heavy rain, etc. I'm not going to name just one person because there's been a lot of questions about that. So would you guys touch on that and maybe clarify its use in the rain?
Yeah, I think sometimes people will get us confused. They did with the Lofttech jacket, and I saw one comment that was a little bit maybe confused as well. Because we classify this as a very water-resistant jacket and the ability for it to perform when wet, I think people get confused a little bit that it might be a rain jacket. Yeah. It's not a rain jacket. There's no membrane in it. It's breathable. It's not, water can permeate it, but it does have a DWR coating on the exterior, which is a very durable DWR coating, and then the insulation itself performs in wet conditions. So maybe expound on that just a hair.
Yeah. Okay. So the whole jacket is 100% synthetic. So synthetic fabric, synthetic insulation, everything about the jacket is hydrophobic in nature, meaning that that water does not easily adhere or absorb onto or into the fabric or the insulation. That means that when water does really get kind of pushed into it, and it just doesn't actually really absorb water. If you kind of force water into it, the mass of the insulation and the fabric will contain a small percentage of water, but that water is almost forced out very quickly. So like when you put this in the washing machine and you're done, like you lift it up, I would have no reservations about putting that on and walking outside into a snowstorm. So when we say it's warm when wet, it provides like 90% of its insulative value when it's as wet as you can get it in real world conditions. So no, it's not a rain jacket. However, if you were to get caught out in the rain wearing this, it is still going to provide insulative value because it's the insulation itself can't really become compromised or flattened or lose its loft. It will maintain its insulation. It will maintain loft. And then it will dry really, really quickly. So no, it's not a rain jacket. We don't recommend using it as such. But it is very reassuring that if it does get wet and you are caught out for, 20 minutes in a rain shower, it'll still keep you warm.
Yeah.
Hope that covers it.
Yeah, I think that does. And I think we're going to try to keep this more rapid fire, a little bit higher level answers here, because there's lots of variety of questions coming in here. Benjamin's asking, what should we know about the care of the Vario? Honestly, it's a very easy piece to care for. Washing it wise, I'd recommend using a delicate cycle. We definitely always recommend not using too much detergent. Overuse of detergent could potentially deteriorate things like DWR faster or things like that. But in the grand scheme of things, it should be a very, very easy piece to take care of, to wash. I don't ever advocate for overwashing any piece.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that we need to highlight per se about washing and care instructions. So
yeah.
Next question here. Andrew's very excited about the tall sizing. Says that some of the other pieces are like barely long enough. Any other colors coming out? No other colors planned right now. Improvements that we envision in the future right now, nothing. We're very happy with the piece. We'll continue to test it. Obviously, we never stop designing, but no improvements for the time being. How does this compare to the Patagonia Nano Puff? Now, I personally have never worn that jacket, so it's probably not fair to compare. I don't think you've ever worn that jacket either. But as far as warmth goes, I think it's going to be very, very similar, but you eliminate so many stitches in that jacket with a continuous fiber insulation. So I think there would be some massive benefits, both in durability, right? Because stitching catches, stitching picks, those types of things, but also just in durability of the insulation, because it's not a loose fill insulation. It will stay in place. It won't clump over time. So durability wise, it's going to have an increase both in the insulation terms, the fabric terms, the stitching terms. And then this piece also has, the added vents and stuff underneath the arms. So
Tayson, I actually have another topic that is getting a lot of questions from a lot of people about. So a lot of people are asking, does this really replace a puffy jacket, or a couple are more specific with the Loft Tech jacket that we released or the No ULs? Does it really replace any puffy or specifically those?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Does it replace another puffy? So whether that's something like, I don't know, a Ghost Whisperer hoodie, or jacket, that would be considered in kind of this category, or anything else that's going to be what we'd classify as like maybe a sweater weight jacket in down. And to me, the answer is yes, it does. Yeah. I would say in that category, there's always a little bit of wiggle room. And so I'd put this in the middle or lower tier of that warmth category. But I do use it in 3-season conditions as a standalone piece. It really it's a 3-season piece in my mind.
Yeah, I think the term puffy is overgeneralized because a puffy jacket can vary in how much down is inside it, and that is the direct effect of how warm that puffy is. So there's no concrete answer we can say of like, yes, this will replace any puffy, because it can't by very nature, because this has the insulation amount that it has, and any given puffy has what it has. But the intended use of the general term puffy and this are the same. So if it's a Loft Tech jacket, yeah, this could absolutely replace it. It's just as warm. It's warmer in the wind. It's more durable. It's going to have more consistent insulation. It's slightly less warm than our Nova UL, slightly less, but it's also 2.5 to 3 ounces less weight. There's other jackets out there on the market that they're all going to be very similar, and they're all going to have the same use case. One may be slightly warmer, but
let me ask this
the intended
question.
use is the same.
This is probably the best. You brought up the weight aspect of it. And so if I were to ask you for a piece that's a 9-ounce jacket, even if it was a 900 fill power jacket, but it's still 9 ounces, using super light materials, would it compete in weight to warmth against another jacket in that category? To me, the answer is yes, because if you have a jacket that's this light, the insulation, even if it's 900 fill power down, has to be baffled so tightly that there's so many stitch holes, there's not enough down in it to loft at an extreme level. And so you may be reading between the lines of a specific jacket that I'm kind of thinking in my head, But yes, like this would absolutely perform warmth to weight ratio on any 3-season piece out there, even if it's a 950 fill power down piece in this weight category, because the lack of stitching, the continuous fiber insulation, so on and so forth. So it really does perform as a 3-season piece, especially when you also consider that weight category.
I think it's a valid question for those asking. It is a valid question because it's apples and oranges, but they're both fruit, right? And so visually, people with a stitched baffle construction, loose fill, whether it's synthetic or down insulation, that has the puffy look, and a Vario does not have that look. And so it's very understandable that people would look at it and see it as it's not as puffy looking. And so there could be that question of, well, is it as warm as that? And like for the most part, yes, it is. It's just a different insulation type. It's all one, continuous piece of insulation that requires no stitching to hold all, loose fibers within it. So the advantage of a sheeted insulation is it has consistent insulation thickness throughout the jacket everywhere. So there's not, bumps or ridges of, there's the thick part of the insulation, and then there's the part where there's none because it's stitched across. And every one of those stitch lines is a dead zone. There's no insulation there. So it's very understandable where that question comes from. So, but hopefully to round it up, the answer is yes.
Yep. So some other questions coming in here. Mike's asking how it holds up to abrasion while on the trail. This is something that we pay a lot of attention to in testing. We've had no one put a hole through the Ventus that I'm aware of, whether that's outside the company, inside the company. But we very strategically do use 20 denier nylon fabrics for all of our jackets, actually, from our Tusher Rain jacket to, just every piece is a 20 denier nylon. When we've looked at lighter weight pieces, 10 deniers, 7 deniers, we've frankly, they just have not held up, and we've got massive concerns on those. So this 20 denier piece really comes in at that fine line of still being really lightweight, but offering real world abrasion, resistance. You can absolutely put a hole in this if you're totally carefree and you're just being crazy with it. But mine have taken a lot of abrasion, never put a hole in it, never had any issues, and so we've really found a sweet spot with that 20D material. Are we going to have a tall for women? Barb is asking. No, there's no plans for a tall for women at the moment. But if you've not yet ordered any of our women's sizing, give it a shot. We find that we typically we have pretty long sleeves compared to other brands, and so still definitely worth looking into to see if our sleeve length as is would fit you.
OBS not sticking up. Reconnected. We're good.
Okay. Sorry if we lost you there for just a second. I think we're back connected. How much weight would you save if you didn't include zippers and pockets?
Like zero zipper?
Yeah, I don't know how you could get it on and off without a zipper. But
man, I weighed out the zippers at some point. I don't remember.
We have weighed it, Dave,
An
but we
ounce?
don't have enough. We don't remember right off the top to maybe answer that. But I would guess between 1 and 2 ounces. I think it would be better hiking through vegetation than the Loft-Tech. I would say the same. No stitching to snag. Be a little bit better at expelling the moisture, because also with the stitching, water can beat up on the stitching and then get inside the piece, and so the lack of stitching really is helpful there. Got mine today. Love it. So Jonathan, you're one of the first people to get it in your hands. Some people are saying that it's delivered, but they're probably at work or out and about. Got theirs an hour or so ago. What's the temperature comfort range of these if used as a winter coat? I think we've kind of talked about this before, but sitting stagnant, in the 30s, I don't know, something like there. Active, extremely low.
Yeah, and maybe if you, I don't know if this person is thinking in terms of like a day-to-day like winter application or like actually out in the backcountry, because if it's like 15 degrees and it's a day-to-day thing, like for me, like this is all I throw on. Like I wear this every day to the office in the wintertime. it's not 15 degrees, but it's often like 25 degrees in the morning or 20 in the morning. And, so it's kind of like you're sort of active. You're getting up, going to the car, going into the office, going to the fridge, stuff like that.
Where did the name Vario come from?
From like variation or variable, variability. We felt like the jacket has a very broad use case, so lots of variability in how and when you can use the jacket.
Yep. Mickey's saying he's getting the jacket and he's going to post a video if he can get some testing in on it. Glad to see the tall sizing. Why use something like the Vario over a fleece? Any advantages from Ram trails?
They have two different applications. A fleece is a much higher activity piece. It's a knit fabric, so a fleece is more of a mid layer and an active insulation piece that's going to release a lot of excess heat and breathe a lot. But it's also not going to retain nearly as much heat as this. So this is more of a static insulation piece, whereas a fleece is going to be a much more breathable mid-layer and active insulating piece.
Yeah, we're down to about the last 10 minutes here, so we're going to even have to speed things up because there's a lot more questions in here.
I would say maybe we might have time for maybe 4 more questions, but we've got to actually start, as promised, doing our Sawtooth Pants giveaway before we have to sign off here.
So you work on selecting a winner, Derek. We're just going to put Derek inside. He's going to do a random number generator, and he's going to select the comment. So he'll just pick that for us while we answer a few more. When compressed in a pack or stuff sack, does the compression affect the insulation? Short term, no, but we don't recommend storing it compressed. Over time, that could have an effect. Why did you choose the ventilated armpit material rather than pit zips? Really, pit zips can be less comfortable when you're wearing it closer to the body, but really it's just more like effortless thought process in use.
Convenience.
You're not zipping them up, zipping them down. Convenience factor just really, really worked well. We were very happy with it, so we kept that. Continue on here. People are getting them, saying they love them. Someone got theirs as the live started, liked it. Would this be suitable for material on pants? No. Well, for an insulated pant, that would be different, but they would be extremely warm for an insulated pant. You notice any problems with the shoulder or hip areas with the backpack? So basically, is there any issues with maybe durability while backpacking with the backpack on when continually rubbing and using?
Shouldn't be.
Yeah, from our experience, no. Devin's saying youth sizing would be amazing. Same question from Neil Benson. Works well with the pack. Are we planning on doing more tall sizing in the future? Yes, I think that's something we'll try to build on based off of how many people are ordering them. So I think so far we'll just watch the numbers, and we just have to make decisions as a business on those numbers. But definitely we'll consider it for other things. Can you speak to the use of 20D outer carried over from the Ventus, using possible something heavier? So basically, Devin's asking why we used a 20D on the inner and outer versus maybe using something even heavier. I think from our perspective, it's just we haven't felt the need to have something heavier, as far as durability goes. And so we've not really needed to test it or consider it. We've just had very adequate durability as is. And so we've not, considered something much higher. So
we're happy with the balance of weight and durability.
Yep. So any of these questions that we can't get to here, you can always reach out to support. Maybe we'll be able to answer some of these offline as well on the video. But how is the outer shell with dirt, odor, abrasion? It's held up very, very well for us. Again, also, this is a piece you could definitely wash, a little bit with less headache than a down piece. Yeah, I think we're going to have to wrap this up.
While you're scrolling through,
yes.
Let me put in a plug for something. Anybody listening, on our website, If you want some more in-depth explanation of insulation, different types and classifications of insulation, and clothing layers as a whole, and a clothing system, I think you can gain a lot from an article we have on our website. I think it's under the resources tab or something like that. There's a menu where you can, at the top of the web page, click on it, and then the drop-down menu will bring up the 10-piece adaptive clothing system. Click on that. It's a long read, but it's also conveniently segmented into some hyperlinks. And if you want to just skip, navigate to insulation, there's a lot that I think you could take away that will benefit you in understanding this piece, understanding how you might integrate it with your existing clothing system. I definitely recommend to anybody on our website find the 10-piece clothing system article, and I think you could really benefit from reading through that.
Okay, I think we are out of time. The last question is just like why we're using a recycled product, and so maybe just company philosophy here from our perspective. We prioritize performance over everything else. We believe that a piece that performs well and has solid, good durability is going to stay out of landfills longer. It's going to be a piece that you can buy one piece instead of two or three. Two or three recycled products, green products per se, still produce more impact on our world than one piece that you use longer, repair, etc. So for us, we don't necessarily prioritize finding recycled product because performance is our focus. The reason that we used recycle in this piece, and we'll actually start to use it in the Ventus in the future as well, is we were able to prove that this recycled material performs as good, if not better, than a non-recycled material. So for us, that's the threshold that we set. Is we want, if we are going to use recycled, it's got to perform at the same level as a non-recycled, and in this case, it does. And so it was an easy decision for us to agree with that, and that's really in part the reason that works is because of our partners, because of their engineering, their chemistry, and their control over what recycled materials are getting recycled and put in this piece. They can fully control that and deliver a very performance-focused piece. So, okay, Derek, let's jump to the giveaway. Do we have a name? Drum roll.
We do have a name. So I did go and use the random winner generator, and what I'm going to ask you to do when I announce your name, if you're still on here, I need you to respond immediately in the comments and then confirm that you heard, because I do have some instructions for you. So our winner today of a pair of Sawtooth pants is Northern Tide. So Northern Tide, if you're still on, if you would drop in the comments real quick, confirming that you've heard this, I'll need you to do that. Otherwise, if we don't hear from you in the next minute or two, I have a backup winner.
Okay, Northern Tide. Go ahead and drop a comment in here if you're still on, so that you can. Oh, he dropped it already.
Okay, Northern Tide. What I need you to do is go ahead and message support@outdoorvitals.com, and we're gonna just find out all of your shipping info so that we can get those pants to you as soon as possible. Obviously, I'm not gonna ask you to do it here on the internet in front of everybody, but message us at support@outdoorvitals.com. Just send us an email, mention that you were selected as the winner, and we will take care of you.
Yes, we really appreciate you guys being on this live stream. It's been a lot of fun. We enjoy these questions. They're good for us to answer and to work through, but also many of you guys have already ordered this piece. That's been, really awesome to see. It's been a phenomenal launch for us. I think you guys are going to be extremely, extremely happy with the piece, especially when you get it out of your house and start using it in the field. All of our gear is designed for use case in the field and the performance there. So you guys are going to love this piece when you get out. I have a lot of confidence that this is going to be one of our best sellers for many years to come after you guys continue to use this piece. So thanks for tuning into live stream. Thanks for all of you that have already ordered the jacket. I do want to say one last thing, which is we only have one run of these for the entire winter season. And we were actually putting in a second order of these yesterday, and we are going to have some longer lead times than we would have liked. There's just been some scenarios develop in supply chain. And so if you want this piece, highly recommend you order it as soon as possible. Don't wait till even Black Friday, because if your size, your color stocks out there will be no solutions for many, many months, well into 2023. So there's your warning. We gave you a warning on the podcast. I think we've given you warnings in emails, but you guys are our loyal followers. We want you guys to be well aware of the stock situation. So there's your warning. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for all the help with the comments. Northern Tide, you are going to love the Sawtooth pants. They are still the best pants I've ever worn. I pretty much live in them every day, and they're just absolutely phenomenal. So we'll get those sent out to you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on a future live and on some future videos.